Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone is over there chasing balls, chasing life goals. I hope you are too. I hope you're all happy and healthy and that with Monday and the blustery wind, the cobwebs are shaken off and maybe some of the disappointment is too about what happened yesterday. As I say, this morning I've woken up and looked at Twitter and seen just the variety of different takes and divisiveness. It's never been more divided at Tottenham. And I guess, like I said always, I understand why, because when we've been so close yet so far for so long as a Tottenham fan, then every opinion is kind of valid, or most opinions are very valid, not just in the grand scheme of things, but even in the minutiae. When you look at Ange, when you look at the tactics, when you look at players like Johnson or Kulusevski or Bissouma, or Ben Davies or Porro, whoever you want, even Vicario. I've seen people calling for Vicario to be sold. But look, generally speaking, there's always going to be outliers, but generally speaking, I do think that most opinions have some sort of validity to them. And so I understand, and that's why I always want to understand your opinions. So drop a comment on the video today. Let me know your thoughts on what we're going to talk about. Whilst you're there, if you don't mind, guys, please hit the like button. Your like button game is super strong. Anyway, you always smash it out of the park for me. If we can get over 500 likes on this video, I'd be over the moon. If not, well, I'll try and do better. But also hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Join the 23,500 people that have gone before you, trying to get to 25k. Be awesome if you could help me out in that regard. Let's get into it, guys. And look, there's two topics I want to talk about. One of them is an emerging or re-emerging narrative in Twitter this morning and yesterday about Christian Romero, and is the Monster 6 that we are looking for, does he already play at Tottenham, just in a different position? Look, it's not a story that I haven't kind of gone into before on the channel. I remember Devil's Advocate, way back in like September or October, we were talking about it with Johnny and Dave. And I think we had a kind of consensus at the time that principally it doesn't kind of concern me. Principally, I think it makes sense. I think that he as a defender is one of, if not the best passing centre-backs in the Premier League. I can't think of too many more. I haven't looked at the stats to see if that's very a valid take, but just from memory, from kind of visual experience, I think that Christian Romero is one of the best passers of the ball in his position in the Premier League. And so could he transition to a 6? If we're looking for a 6 who's got aggression, who's got footballing IQ, who can read the game, who's got controlled aggression, which isn't always necessarily a box you can tick for Romero. Sometimes he loses his head, but yesterday he was brilliant. Absolutely phenomenal yesterday. Talk about that as part of this story in a second. And so, like, in terms of that kind of listing out the things you're looking for in a 6, then, maybe he does fit the bill. Maybe he could do it. I don't think it will ever happen, but as a thought experiment, we'll kind of run with it today. And so, kind of the question marks around its viability start with, well, does he want to do it? Would he want to do it? And why wouldn't he want to do it if the answer was no? And I think that might come down to whether or not his place would be under threat in the Argentinian team. If you believe, or if his Argentinian national manager believes that in order to play in a certain position for your country, you have to play it for your club. And that's not always the case, right? There's lots of examples of players that play different positions for their club and country. Just to name a few off the top of my head, you can think of, I think Valverde is one, Camavinga's one, Alphonso Davies, John Stones. There's lots of players that are at the very top of the game who play in different positions for their club and country. And so there's not necessarily a requirement to do it, but the vast majority of international players do play in the same position. And so you have to wonder whether or not, if Romero was to be asked, would he be on board it? And if so, he'd probably consider, is his place more easily attainable as a centre-back or as a midfielder? And, I think probably there's less competition at centre-back in the Argentinian team. To compete with the midfielders, who are you competing with? Ezequiel Palacios, McAllister, Enzo Fernandez. They're the sort of DMs. Obviously, you've got Lo Celso and that, who plays a bit further up. But, so it's not going to be as easy. But like I say, I don't necessarily think that there's a requirement to always play the same position for your club versus country. Argentina play with the back four most of the time. The other easier argument, I guess, would be if you do think that Romero should have the more freedom to come and step up, then there is, of course, the argument to go to a back three where you have Romero in the middle, Van De Ven and Dragasin as the sort of centre-backs, and then let Romero move up from the third-man defence into a 6 when we have the ball and kind of just play more advanced anyway, but then naturally drop back into a defensive 3. And if you did that, then you'd allow Van De Ven to be able to cover more space out wide. The same with Dragicin on the right. Everyone's playing in their natural positions, but still kind of overcompensates for some of the vulnerabilities in the system in the transition, which is obviously the fullbacks getting inverted and caught out up the field. So there is a logic to that argument, you know, to play a back three with a two-man midfield, but allow Romero to join up. And, you know, I don't hate that. But again, as a thought experiment, it works. But as a reality, Ange has never played with a back five, or back three rather. So it's not going to happen unless he changes. And he's not going to change, is he? And I guess that comes down to the second part of the story, which, again, is based on yesterday's performance in the aftermath, in the post-match press conference. Ali Gold, shout out to him, asked a pretty difficult question to ask of a manager who doesn't really like being asked difficult questions. And Ali Gold said to him, you know, look, with all, I'm paraphrasing here, but with the growing evidence now that set pieces are a problem defensively, they're a problem offensively as well. We're wasteful with them up front and we're terrible defensively with them. Then, you know, is it time to kind of put in some fixes, basically? And he said, and Ange basically said, no, if I thought that resolving set pieces, you know, as a tactic was going to be a needle mover or a game changer or the difference, I put all my time into it. But he doesn't believe that to be the case. He believes that it's part of a bigger problem where we're just not clinical enough and we're offering up too many chances to teams that are. And so he's more focused on, you know, a bigger philosophical movement where the players are not taking advantage of their chances or not paying attention enough to what's going on. And that to me is a real frustration from Ange, you know, because I'm on board with the in-play, from open play stuff. I don't mind giving up some chances occasionally. And I think that yesterday we dominated in most of those parts against one of the best teams in the league, one of the best teams in world football. And so I don't think we're that far away. As I say, sold for the 6, sold for a 9, sold for a winger that are more clinical, that can do a bit more with the ball, that miss less clear-cut chances, big chances missed. I think we've missed 50 big chances this season. We've only had 500 shots. You know, so 1 in 10 of our shots is a big chance missed. We've also hit the post 20 times this season in the Premier League. I'm sure that those 20 times probably count in the big chances missed. I'm not sure how it works. But in any event, you know, too high a percentage for me of our shots are considered big chances missed. Anyway, we need a 9. I think that much is clear that is going to reduce that ratio. We need a winger who can be a little bit more calm and measured. Like Timo Werner yesterday did some really good, interesting stuff driving with the ball. Then he gets the chance to cross it and just puts his head down and wellies it as hard as he can. That kind of thing is a problem that needs to be resolved. Like I said, Brennan Johnson, loads of really good mazy dribbles, not enough output. Same with Kulusevski. Poor decision-making at the end of an interesting move essentially makes the interesting move irrelevant. So you get some souls for that. And I think Tottenham's in-play mechanisms will work. I do. And obviously, the 6 solution, whether Romero is or isn't the solution, I don't think it will ever happen. So it's largely irrelevant in my mind. But somebody else coming in, like a Polinia and Tottenham, for me, are 3 first-team players away from being able to have that 30-goal difference swing that we were talking about. You also need to get the rotation players levels up a little bit, a full-back on the left-back that can compete with Udogie, another centre-back for the left side, a goalkeeping reserve. And I think the open play stuff is fine. I'm okay with it. I've got no problem with that. But the set pieces is unforgivable if you're not even acknowledging it's a problem, because it doesn't require you to adapt or adjust your philosophical approach to open play. From set pieces, you're already reset. You already have these things that you have to do. And as I said in yesterday's video, and I put out a tweet today, go and check it out. There's a thread of about 7 or 8 different kind of screenshot examples of corners and set pieces of how the template has emerged. If you are an exploitative manager, then all you got to do is stick 6 players from Arsenal or whoever else is next, Chelsea next, at the back post and beyond. And then you've got these 4 or 5 Tottenham players that are all towards the front post that are looking over their shoulder. They're completely aware of the threat, but they're not able to overcome it because they're stuck in their zonal patterns. And also when the players then emerge and converge onto where the goalkeeper is, it becomes super compressed. Vicario is completely threatened, and everybody else is jumping from a standing point, like standing jumping, which doesn't get you anywhere near as much leap as the opposition who are running and get that kind of momentum in front of them. And that's why players like Kai Havertz had so much success yesterday for the third goal. If you don't see that as a problem, and not only that, by the way, but also you've got someone like Sonny who's just standing around the penalty area, not marking anybody, he should be on the halfway line, because you do that and you pull 2 or 3 of the opposition players out of the box, worried about him on the counter. Not having that, having all 11 of our players in the penalty area yesterday allowed Declan Rice to be the furthest player back for Arsenal, absent the goalkeeper, and he was about 3 feet away from the edge of the D. So 21 players on the pitch, all in or around the 18-yard box, because Tottenham had absolutely no threat for the counter. Madness. And if Ange is saying, no, he doesn't perceive it to be a big deal, he's not even acknowledging it as a problem, then to me, that is a problem. I am not Ange out. I want to stick with him. I think he needs more time. As I said yesterday, I think you have to be patient. You have to allow the chemistry and the kind of being on each other's wavelengths to bond. You have to let that gel. You have to let the jelly set and see what happens. And that's going to take time. And I do think we're 3 players away from the starting 11 and maybe 6 in total away from having a team that can compete. And we can make that goal difference of 30 that you need to have a swing of to be able to get to the top 3. I think you can do that from open play. But 15 to 20 goals will be conceded next season from the set pieces unless we take it seriously and resolve it. And if Ange is literally too stubborn in a press conference to acknowledge it as an issue, and if he genuinely will never, ever change it because he doesn't see it as an issue, or because he's too stubborn to work with it, or to employ someone who's better at it than Jedinak and Mason, then I genuinely think he has to go, because I don't think you're ever going to be able to close the gap if you're conceding 20 goals unnecessarily that you could stop if you just adjusted a set piece, which is not the same as changing your philosophical approach to open play. So if he's never going to do it, then I think the whole thing is pointless. But I hold hope that the weight of evidence and the weight of public opinion will become so overwhelming that he will get a tap on his shoulder from someone saying, if you don't embrace this, then you are stubborn and obnoxious to the point where it's hurting yourself. You're your own worst enemy, and unfortunately, then there's no point there's no path together in the future. I believe that he will eventually adapt and adjust that, because he doesn't have to sacrifice his philosophy to do it. I'm on board with Ange. I'm on board with us figuring it out, but there has to be an adaptation. There has to be some humility in the guy, less hubris, some humility and acknowledgement that there's unnecessary gaps. It doesn't take a philosophical change or sacrifice to fix it. All it takes is a set-piece specialist who knows how to educate these players on man-to-man marking, or another form of set-piece defence that doesn't require zonal marking, when every manager sets the teams that they're playing against up to take advantage of an outdated system that does not bake in to the context of the design any of the attacking team's IQ. Anyway, keep a lookout for Devil's Advocate tomorrow, guys. I hope Dave is back in Ireland and we'll be up for it. Johnny certainly will be. And we'll be doing some more shows this week as well. I've got Henry Wright coming on Thursday for the Chelsea preview. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Do you see Ange having his, his arm twisted at some point into at least adjusting? Do you see us hiring a set-piece coach? Is he too proud to even kind of back down on that idea? And if not, even the staunchest Ange supporters of you, if he doesn't see the need to ever adjust or adapt, even in set pieces, would that change your mind? If you knew he was never going to back down on this, would that change your mind on Ange? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, bye-bye.